Run and catch, run and catch. The praying mantis has eggs to hatch. Natalie French gives me the creeps. She goes after boys she wants to keep. The praying mantis goes off to pray. Will Xander live another day? Hello, hello. I'm Juliet. Psst. We're going to sleep. Want to come?
And we're back.
We are back. Woo!
Woo! I haven't watched this episode in a long time, and I had a lot of fun watching it.
I loved it.
I did too.
Yeah, I actually think it's a really powerful episode.
I just recently watched May December.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen that?
I haven't, but I know that it's based on the Mary Ann Letourneau teacher-student. Yes.
Right. So I had that in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like that idea, and especially like that idea in my head when I was watching it. I'm like, oh, I never really realized. Probably just washed over me the first few times I watched it. It was just like, oh, this is explicitly about these teachers who
Prey on their students.
Yeah, prey on their students. Like, and this is your boy, David Greenwald's first writing credit on the show, I believe.
It is. Should I give you guys a little bit of behind the scenes info?
Sure.
Yes.
So John Vulich of Optic Nerve made the prosthetics, and he won an Emmy for Buffy. He also won for X-Files when it moved from Canada to California, and for Babylon 5. And he got the whole gig of Buffy because he had a giant praying mantis already in his shop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they knew that this storyline was coming up, and they hired him for the show once they saw it.
This is like really like heavy craftsmanship in that.
Yes. And the funny thing is that the praying mantis had been made for Babylon 5, and Musetta, who plays Natalie French, was in Babylon 5. Yeah, now they do 3D scanning for prosthetics, but at the time they did life casts. And the first one I did ever was for Buffy, and I actually still have it. In fact, it is used in the basement set of the Darcel chase sequence in our film.
No way.
Yeah, we put it in there because we thought it would be kind of cool that he had sort of this mold of Jules's head. So I don't know, have either of you ever had a life cast done for prosthetics?
I have not.
No.
I want to, though.
Oh my gosh, it's a very trippy experience because it feels like, you know, those impressions you get when you get at the dentist?
Sure.
It feels like, you know how when that happens, you kind of feel like your teeth might come out with it, but they don't, but it feels like when they, So this really feels like your skin is going to come off when they peel it. And they put straws in your nose so that you have a way to breathe while they put all this goop over your head. James had gone before me, and I kept saying to myself as I started this process, James has skin. He still has skin. It's on his face. This should be okay.
Oh, you were freaked out by it.
I was a little, what happened is the technician was really, really nice. And he asked me if I was claustrophobic. And I said, no, I don't think I'm claustrophobic. And then they start putting the stuff on and they start to give you the straws. And all of a sudden I thought, well, maybe I am claustrophobic. This is a little bit scary. And then he told me that he had just done John Travolta for a film and they had to stop because John completely freaked out. So they couldn't get the cast and they were trying to figure out what else to do. And so he was just a doll. He literally pet me almost because it takes about an hour. And he talked to me and he kind of pet me. And this kind of wild life lesson happened where I was under all the goop with the straws. And I had this moment where I thought, it's like this fork in the road. I could either completely lose my shit and freak out, or I could go this other way and not do that. And I electively thought, I'm going to take that road. And I did, and I was able to do it. And I thought, I got to apply this to the rest of my life. This is just really profound and amazing. And I got through it, and I've done it 2 other times. But one of the other things that's really weird when you go into makeup effects shops is how you see a bunch of people's heads.
Right.
For instance, Joel Harlow, the last time I was at his shop, he was Johnny Depp's personal. I think he had 25 Johnny Depp heads in his shop.
I would just be afraid about my sinuses because, like, one's going to go out. One nostril's not going to be functional. It's just going to do that. So I'm just afraid of starting to breathe like that.
It's a very strange experience.
I think I'd enjoy it, though. I have a weird... Yeah, I think I'm weird like that. You ever do a sensory deprivation tank?
I have not done that. Did you like that?
I enjoyed that.
People like it.
Yeah, it's a very fun thing. I like...
Fun? I think
it's fun.
It makes... Yeah,
it gets very loud in your head. Your head gets very loud.
No, not me. I didn't think I was claustrophobic until I had to get an MRI. And then it turns out, sure am. No, it sounds like War of the Worlds.
So, Chris, do you want to give us a synopsis of the episode?
Surely. Sunnydale High has a new substitute teacher, a Miss Natalie French. She is very alluring to the male students, most notably Xander. And Buffy discovers that Miss French is hiding a little secret. She's actually a praying mantis. She's a predatory creature who is targeting the virgin males of the school. So Buffy and her friends race to save Xander and the other students.
This episode was written by David Greenwalt, and I talked with Greenie yesterday, and he told me that he came up with the idea for this episode. And oh, by the way, I asked him about the narrator at the top of these episodes before Tony narrated it. And so we have a piece of the puzzle, but it still remains a mystery. Because he doesn't recall the name of the actor, but he said that the WB forced them to use him. So I think, Frank, your narrator voice for the WB theory may actually be so.
It might be their in-house guy.
Buffy on the WB's new Tuesday.
Like that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I love how this starts where Xander's having every teenage boy's dream.
You hurt your hand. Will you still be able to
finish my solo and kiss you like you've never been kissed before?
Rescuing the girl, and he's rocking out on stage. Like it's
killing vampires in the pool.
Yeah. And it turns out that Xander's sleeping in class where Dr. Gregory is giving a lesson.
Then the lesson is about ants and insects when she comes in about the praying mantis.
If you read the homework, you should know the two ways that ants communicate.
It made me actually think about the lesson in episode 1, because the lesson in episode 1 was about the plague. And that is when we're introduced to the master, who is underground like a rat or a bat. So it made me think about that, because the lesson in this one was relevant to the theme of the episode, hearkening back to the first one and thinking, oh, how did that apply? It did apply.
Yeah, absolutely. Could I point out that I love... And I don't mean this ironically, I genuinely love this, is when, and this is a thing you've seen in a lot of movies, a lot of TV, when the teacher's lesson is basically giving you the plot synopsis. It's like it's telling you what the plot of the episode's going to be about.
Yeah.
Or when on TV, when they turn on the news to the exposition all day.
A meteor 3 times the size of Earth is heading towards us in a collision course that will result in the extinction of all life on this planet. This just in? No, it's not.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we even find out about the eggs and how they're fertilized and, everything that's going to happen.
It's going to be relevant.
But, also the first science teacher is so cool. He's encouraging her. He likes that she's smart. He says, don't be sorry, be smart. And it's sad that he gets killed because he's a promising character.
You have a first-rate mind and you can think on your feet. Imagine what you could accomplish if you actually did the
homework thing.
Right. They didn't need to give him that scene, but they did. And it gives it that little bit of weight, and it pays off at the end later on, too.
Yeah. And that cracked glasses shot, to me, that's such a horror trope shot. It's a clue. Oh, and hey, do you guys know the band at the Bronze this episode?
No, the one who gives Xander the stink eye?
He shoots some shade at him.
Yeah. What was that for, man? Jeez.
I don't know what that guy's problem was. He's a fan. Imagine you're on stage and a fan comes up to you and gives you a look.
Have you told this story on the air yet? I'm sorry, audience. This is just between me and Juliet. Listen, you don't have to tell them. But when the band shows up where the one was hitting on you in the vampire makeup, just tell me and Chris. We won't tell anybody else, but I want to know from my
Well,
own.
should I just save it for that episode?
Oh yeah, no, not now. When it comes
Okay.
up. When it
comes up. Yeah.
there's
Okay.
gonna be a little bit of silence on your end. You're not gonna know. You'll never know, but I'll know, and that's all that matters. You don't want me guessing because I'll guess loudly and often.
All right, so I'll have to just throw it in on a
Yes.
random episode. Yeah. Okay.
Loudly and often.
Was it him?
Is it that guy?
That guy?
Is he into the vamp phase? Was it him?
He's got that look about him.
Well, this band is Super Fine. That's the name of this band.
That sounds familiar.
Super fine.
Doesn't that sound familiar?
It does.
Did they ever put out like an album, like music from the Bronze?
They did a soundtrack, a Buffy soundtrack, because I had that, and it included a lot of stuff from the Bronze, but I don't think it was solely about the Bronze because it also had some of the themes for the different characters as well. Like there's, the Buffy Angel theme in season 2, which is a really lovely theme. I think it had the Drusilla theme. It had a lot of themes, but it also had a lot of the Bronze acts as well.
Yeah, so Angel comes out, gives off his coat.
Yes, he does more of that sort of, handsome lurking. We're definitely getting
lurking his ass off this episode.
He is.
He's handsoming his ass off too in this episode.
He is. The handsome lurking is at its prime. He's got the wife beater, the leather jacket that he gives to Buffy. And it's the first time also that Xander and Willow see Angel and put together who he is.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I didn't realize. That's right. That's the first time they've seen him.
Mm-hmm.
He does the classic cool guy. Nah, don't worry about it.
Oh, right. Give her your jacket. It's a balmy night. No one needs to be trading clothing out there.
Dude,
I'm fine.
What a move. If I ever
even though they're major scars
hanging off practically. No, this is all right.
He's in such incredible shape too. He takes it
and his hair is perfect. I hate him. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, the jacket would have came off. If I took that jacket, it would have just been like
I'm suddenly not
sticking,
cold
it's
anymore.
It's sticking.
Yeah, especially in a club.
Suddenly not cold anymore.
I'm sorry.
Why is it damp?
It's a little slick. It's hot in the Bronze. They don't put the air on here.
You sweating?
I don't know why you're cold. I'm sweating here. So Musetta Vander, she plays the teacher. Chris, you might remember her from the unfortunate Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Oh, I was going to say, that's Sindel. I know exactly who that is.
Yes, but you also might remember her from the wonderful, from the golden age of Full Moon Entertainment, the wonderful duology Oblivion and Backlash Oblivion 2. She plays Lash. You remember the space western?
Oh my God! Yes,
the one with Meg Foster and George Takei.
Yep.
Yes.
She's Dutch South African. She was actually raised without a TV. We'll get to talk to her more and hear more about this. Her mother was a ballet teacher. She also appeared as the dream girl in more than 20 music videos for recording artists like Rod Stewart, Amy Grant, Tina Turner, Elton John, Chris Isaak. And then she worked alongside such screen veterans as Kevin Kline, Kenneth Branagh, and Will Smith in Wild Wild West.
Oh, she's in Wild Wild West too. That's right.
Yeah. Yes, she's worked opposite George Clooney and John Turturro in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, the Sirens.
Yep. And then also she worked with John Hurt and Louis Gossett Jr. in Monolith. So she did a lot of interesting work that it'll be fun to hear and talk with her about, as well as playing Natalie French.
Could you help me?
Yes.
I'm looking for Science 109.
Oh, it's, I go there every day.
We see again that Buffy is so smart at piecing everything together. She says, the glasses, because why didn't he pick them up in the library? She says that he didn't change his clothes, so he hadn't left. The teacher hadn't left. So she's Sherlocking it. She's putting all the clues together.
Yeah, she knows something's running afoul here.
Yeah, something in it. No. At this point, it has to be just constant. That has to be just the constant.
I'd be so paranoid.
As soon as anything happens, well, it was a monster. There's somebody. He didn't just leave. Something's here.
Yeah. Oh, you get tapped on the back, and you'd be like, "Oh,
yeah,
what?
Monster!"
I
do that now, and I've never met a monster, and I do that now. So
I hear a sneeze. I'm going under the desk.
The show continually subverts expectations. We think that the teacher is going to be the one in peril when she's walking home. She's alone. She's on a dark street. but she repels the vampire, and Buffy sees it, and it's very much like the Darla opening of episode 1.
Right.
Yeah.
You know there's a problem. Like the vampire with the Vega claw.
Yeah.
The Vega from Street Fighter 2.
Street Fighter.
He's like, nah, I don't want that smoke. And he just goes right in the sewers.
In the sewer. Quickly in the sewer.
Quickly into the sewer. Oh, Mr. Flutie's whole scene is peak. It's peak Flutie, this episode.
Yep.
That whole monologue he gives about... He's like, listen.
Going to the school counselor.
Everyone who saw the body has to see a crisis counselor.
But I really don't.
We all need help with our feelings. Otherwise, we bottle them up, and before you know it, powerful laxatives are involved.
Rewatching it, I've really grown.
Yeah.
I love Armin Shimmerman. And I love his performance, but his moments here, I'm like, man, I could have... It's like... I love David Tennant's Doctor, but I could have liked another season of Christopher Eccleston's. Man, I could have gone for some more Flutie. It's a shame he's about to leave us very shortly.
Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Yeah, they were both terrific as the principals and very different.
Very different ways. Like, I love him. He's so awkward. He's trying to be relatable, like a person.
Well, right from the first scene where he's like, you could call me Bob, but don't, or you could hug me, but don't. Like all these things he tries, but he's not very efficient or effective at it.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, actually, I'm not comfortable with any of these things I'm saying that you should do. So never mind. Which, again, I relate to. I also really like Cordelia when she's with the grief counselor. And it starts out like she's having a moment. And then it turns into the most vapid thing you've ever heard a person say.
I'm not saying that we should kill a teacher every day just so I can lose weight. I'm just saying when tragedy strikes, we have to look on the bright side.
Buffy's face during that is
it's just utter disgust.
Priceless. I know, it does. It starts out like it's going to be this confessional, and then true Cordy comes out.
Yeah. It's paced really well, that dialogue. You get just enough. It's like, wow, we're learning a new side to Cordelia. And then just over the next few sentences, oh, we're not.
No. Well, we talked about The Exorcist last episode, and Miss French does the 180-degree head turn.
Yeah.
Apparently, Musetta had to stand on exactly the same mark and turn her head in whatever direction, and then they digitally matched it and kept her head turning to make it look like she was doing the whole 180-degree spin. And that's another thing that Buffy figures out, that some bugs can turn their heads. And later she figures out, oh, it's the praying mantis, but she's onto it right away. She kind of goes, wait, this is a bug lady.
If we're going to rank best head spins, I know like everybody will say Exorcist, but you know what I'm going to pick? Steve Martin in The Jerk.
I don't remember that head spin. I got to check it out.
It's when he sells the OptiGrab and he's about to make a lot of money. His head spins.
All right.
The analogy for, inappropriate relations between a teacher and a student. Again, the way using genre to look at that.
Yeah. Does such a good job that I didn't catch it the first time of like masking a true intention. I never caught that. Watching it now, it's like, it's fairly obvious when you watch it now. And it's like, oh, I wasn't looking at it that way. I was like, I was just looking at it when I was originally watching it. Where's the monster? Who's the monsters?
Right. And especially with, like the high school setting where it's the dangers of infatuation is something that is very common among high school students.
Well, and the way that people in a position with young people abuse
the position of power and being
really the humanness of that is what's truly scary.
Yeah.
You know what's really sad about that is all the hack comedians who had the joke, where were these teachers when I was in school?
Oh, I know.
That's every hack comedian playbook.
I think there's also a kind of societal double standard with the idea that if it's a boy, it's okay because it's a desirable thing. And there's all this sort of mixed messaging gender role wise when none of it is. Like the Xander character thinks he wants this. But when it comes down to it, the whole thing is really treacherous and evil and sticky and gross.
I love, though, when she invites him over and they do that real quick, hard cut to him playing guitar. That's my favorite filmmaking flourish in this episode. Like, I love that little bit.
I don't suppose you'd like to come to my place tonight to work on it there.
Come to your place.
Yeah, he has that moment where his dream is, he thinks is coming true.
Yeah.
We got to ask Musetta when she's here what it was like to shoot the scene with the bugs.
They were real bugs.
Oh, yeah, they were.
Even the moment where she's eating the sandwich, which obviously that doesn't have the bugs in it, it's cut so well. And even when you know that's the sequence where you've been handling the bugs, that's hard to do.
Nah, I ain't doing it. I can't.
So I have no idea because I was not a boy. What was it like being a boy in high school? I mean, I didn't have that experience. What are the first words that come to you about high school?
Worst environment imaginable.
Yeah, horrendous was the word that literally just like neon lit up in my head as soon as like the question was asked.
See, that's interesting because me too. I have the same word.
Honestly, when I think about it, I think it was the most stressed I was for prolonged periods of time in my life. There's a lot of things going on, and the things that you think matter at the end of the day. This is why you always, it doesn't mean anything. It really means less than nothing.
You want to tell kids that it's horrible, and then you're going to get into so many other things in your life.
Yeah.
Well, the other weird thing is how long it seemed. I mean, I actually did high school in 3 years. I graduated a year early, did double academics, and got out of high school. But
of course you did.
I don't know what to say to that.
No, I mean, it's well. If you tell me something even less surprising next time.
But it still seems so long. Like those 3 years seem forever, which is now 3 years go by in a blip.
Right. I don't care for how time seems to dilate the older you get.
Like my daughter's gonna be 2.
Wow.
Like we just had her.
Yeah.
Like, my wife literally just
got out of the hospital.
Right. And like doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. And before you know it, she's just going to be not even in a baby. She's going to be a full,
It's
human.
like she's already like saying like sentences. And it's like, what are you doing?
But it's so exciting too to see that, right?
It's amazing. I'm literally amazed every day.
It's like that with Pippi.
Oh, your dog?
Yeah, it's like that. I'm surprised by her every day.
Without the talking.
Yeah.
Well, she started talking. I mean, then you'd trump anything I had to say.
Me and Deborah are convinced she wants to talk. She's trying to get it out. She can't do it. She's trying. You can see the frustration. It's like, I want to be involved. She's had a cold killer stare at me the entire time I've been sitting. And that her gaze will not leave me. He's going to try to move. Like, that's what she's thinking. I know what you're up to.
Did you figure out who the real Natalie French that they go to visit? Do you know who that actress is?
No.
I'm looking for Miss French.
I'm Miss French.
Natalie French, the substitute biology teacher.
Goodness, that's me. I taught for over 30 years.
She is actually Ron Howard's mom.
What?
Yeah, and
Really?
I worked with her husband, Rance Howard, twice. One on Tim Burton's Ed Wood, also on Tobe Hooper's The Toolbox Murders. And so I met her a few times on set, and also we once sat at an awards dinner with Rance and her husband, myself, and so it was lovely to get to see her again on there. Rance in Ed Wood, he plays the fellow who owns the meat packing plant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's the one who's like, I want a real big explosion.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, yeah.
I can't believe that. That just blew my mind. Well, now it makes sense on why she's in Apollo 13.
Yes.
As I said, that's Lovell's mom from Apollo 13.
That's
I said,
right.
wow, when I'm watching it now, that makes 100%
Oh my
sense.
God, she's Jim Lovell's mom. That's right.
Yeah.
Don't you worry, honey. If they could get a washing machine to fly, my Jimmy could land it.
I gotta say, Miss French, the French.
The French.
It is all about business when she gets Xander over the house.
I thought the whole eeny, meeny, miny, mo, it's funny, but it's scary. And I actually added that to the lawyer scene in Reunion in Angel, where Julie and I come in and I say, I think it's like pretty lawyers all in a row. And I kind of mouth eeny, meeny, miny, mo when I'm going to pick them. And so I thought, I do that later.
I do that.
Buffy stakes the claw vamp with the picket fence.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the picket fence is the epitome of American suburbia in juxtaposition to the vampire, which is both the elements of the show. And it's so clear here. And both are also mythic.
It's the like archetype of the of the burbs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's funny. Anytime I see like some kind of wood implement that could be used as a stake. We have an Xbox, like an original Xbox, and we have one video game, and it's the Buffy the Vampire Slayer game.
Oh, you're kidding.
Because Deborah will pull out her Xbox and play that periodically. Like when we got back from Hellmouth Con, she's like, I'm going to be playing Buffy for the foreseeable future until I beat it again. Huh. Anytime I see wood, there's the voice actress who plays Buffy in it. Anytime she comes across like a piece of wood, like she'll go,
Pointy wooden object.
My best friend.
So anytime I see wood, I just say to myself,
Pointy wooden object. My best friend.
So do you think of that with picket fences too?
100%. Like anytime on this show, specifically when I'm watching the show, when somebody gets thrown into like some wood, I'm like, I just hear that voice actress go,
Pointy wooden object.
But what about in regular life when you go by a house with a picket fence? Does that come in your head?
It has sometimes. When I see like wood. Like,
Pointy wooden object. My best friend.
Let's also talk about the bug spray. I mean, those are some big industrial cans of bug spray.
yeah, them big bugs, right?
Big,
That's a big
bug spray.
Oh, bug spray. I thought you said she was a big bug.
That's a big bug
Them's
spray.
big bug spray.
Again, this subverts expectations because the girl is saving the boy, which typically, it would be the other way around. And Buffy is the active one, and Xander is the passive one in these sequences.
You going to say one thing?
Let him go! Did you guys think that the sword fight references the adventures of Robin Hood? Because all the use of the shadows.
I mean,
You know what?
yes.
I'm watching it and I'm like,
That's a very Mike Courtesy move, yeah.
yeah. I was something about this scene is standing out to me. But
Yeah,
I
that's
couldn't wrap my head
total. I didn't even think
around
about that, but yeah,
no,
that's
me neither
totally
until you bring it up. Yeah,
Mike Courtesy thing.
I want to ask you guys a question. Who's the best teacher that you ever had, and who's the worst teacher that you ever had?
Oh, well, it's easy. Worst teacher, Miss Mosier.
And why? What was?
Oh, she was
Miss
horrible.
Mosier?
She was horrible. She'd throw shit at you. She was crazy. I hated that woman. She was horrible.
What grade?
I had her for 5th grade, and for some reason they decided to make her 6th grade that year. So I got it 2 years in a row, and she was she was notoriously brutal.
You were subjected to her for 2
Oh,
years?
2 years. She would throw stuff at you.
Miserable.
And she would like just love to humiliate children. Like she loved it. Like you could tell she was like getting a thrill out of like I wasn't the best student. I'll never say that I was. There's a point where you go, especially as an adult, I look back on it. It's like, that's abuse. Like there's being tough. And I do believe that you need to be tough on kids sometimes. I do believe that. But then there's abuse. And she definitely crossed that line with like me and many other students, I think.
Yeah, being firm or having boundaries or being tough is really different than being abusive.
Yeah, like literally throwing things and like that would get you arrested today. Well, it was a different time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
What about-
best teacher? I don't know. Here's the thing, though. I don't know if I did have an attractive teacher, because if you're a teacher at that time in my life, it didn't register that you could be a human being. It just didn't register to me. I still thought they lived at the school till college.
Well, also, it probably, that I don't know, but it also probably, I don't know how to justify that.
Yeah, no, that's
You
the
can't.
best response you can have.
But I do think that that's probably healthy in some way in terms of there was no crossing of the line in your thinking. Like a teacher was a teacher. It wasn't sexualized. It wasn't anything other than like that person's there to be imparting information.
Ironically, my wife's a teacher, so that's weird. It all comes full circle.
And you can't think of the best teacher you had?
I had a great guidance counselor. If that doesn't count, but I really liked my guidance
it
counselor.
counts.
That counts. He was good. He was a very good dude.
And in what way? What did he do that was?
But he was just a good, supportive, would really listen to you type of guy.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. What about you, Chris?
The worst teacher I had I was very young. It was probably 3rd grade. She was very old. She was ancient at that time. My mother had her.
Oh,
Yeah. And
so she was being horrible for decades.
she knew she was horrible, but she hit me a few times and like grabbed me by the ears and like dragged me through, because I was always very chatty in school.
That's terrible.
Yeah. So I remember one day after I've had it, telling my mother over and over and over during school. One day, my mother came into the classroom like a stark raving lunatic.
Oh, Liz don't play with that shit.
Yeah, and literally put the teacher up against the wall and told her, if you ever lay a hand on my son or any other child in here, I'll kill you, you old lady.
Wow. And did she stop? Did
She
it
stopped.
work?
Yeah, it stopped. Yeah, she was just a vicious, mean old. Like you ask her to go to the bathroom now, like you're in 3rd grade. What are you, 8?
Right.
You have to use the bathroom, and she would just flat out tell you no. Like kids would mess themselves in.
Oh,
the
Miss
classroom.
Mosier did that too. Miss Mosier. I remember this girl. I remember her name, but I won't say it because she don't probably need that dredged up. But I remember we had to clean up the mess she made because she was begging to go to the bathroom. No, I think we were the last generation where that kind of shit flew.
Yeah.
That stuff today, that'd be on the news today.
Oh yeah,
that kind of thing. Like that's like we we just missed the cutoff when that was like, yeah, you can't do that. You can't like deny people
basic human rights.
Yeah, you can't do that.
That's terrible.
It was wild.
And what about your best teacher?
My best teacher was an English teacher in high school. I was always very clever. I used to make it a point after school at the beginning of the year to stay much later after the kids left and walk around and just talk to the security guards, talk to the deans, help them out with things. So get in their good graces almost immediately, so that anytime they ever caught me somewhere or something, they would look and they'd be like, all right, just listen, just scurry along, where everyone else would kind of like get the tension.
So you literally did it to preempt the...
I did it for this reason. Yeah, I knew that if I stuck around and made friends with everyone,
a little grease, you gotta give a little grease.
Yeah, it would make my life easier, because I knew I always hated school. The one dean, the English teacher, I had him for class, and I would cut class all the time. But I wouldn't leave the building, though. I would just wander around and do other things. Like I made friends with the people in the storeroom, like one of the deans, and I would just be like, oh yeah, I'm on a free period. You want me to help you out? And I would just sit in there when I would get things from that. I would get the bathroom keys, and I would get the elevator keys. So I had all these things, and everyone just thought I was supposed to be somewhere. Like I went to every lunch period. We had my high school was tremendous. So we had different lunchrooms. So like one period I would go in one, then the next period I would go in the other. And you needed passes to get into them. But since I was friends with the storeroom people, I would get the passes. So I had them. I'd get stopped by like the security guards outside of school. And I had, a book of nurses' passes. And I'd be like, oh, I'm just going home. Here's the nurses' pass. They'd be like, all right, But I had a teacher, the dean, I had him for English, and I would cut his class every now and then. But he got me one day after school and told me, like, you're too smart for your own good. You know the material, you're a lot more craftier than, I guess, the rest of the kids here, because the rest of the kids here just get in trouble when you just kind of skate through everything and you figured out, like, you're smarter than your own good. I wish you would just apply it to other things instead of just being like a snake. And I said, right. And I said, you know what? I'm going to come to your class, and just to show you that I can do it. Book they were reading was The Tragedy of Julius Caesar. And I literally dazzled them with the report I wrote on that book. And he was like, you see, like, just do that. How easy was this? Just do this. Just keep doing that. And he worked with me with other classes that I was screwing around in, and he helped me a lot through high school. So it was good.
It's kind of like the teacher in the episode we're talking about who says, hey, you're smart. Why don't you apply this to actual work?
Stop scamming everyone.
Stop being a grifter.
Right. Like, just go to class. Like, if you just went to your class, you'd pass.
I had a teacher named Mr. Painter who believed that girls could not do math. It was a geometry class, and he made it he was horrible to all of the female students, and he'd try to humiliate the girls, and he'd give them the really hard questions and make them like stand up in front of the class. And I got such a block about geometry, and then I transferred out of his class to another geometry class, and I got A's and it was kind of an interesting lesson because, these limiting beliefs are really strong. You start to ascribe to them even when they're not yours. And then once I went into this other teacher, I really thrived in geometry. So he was horrible. And he was an older gentleman that had a cot in his room, and he would take naps during lunch. And so I really didn't like Mr. Painter. And then earlier than that, I had a really creepy science teacher named Mr. Quieter, who would do things like make the girl who was the most developed stand up and to say what mammary glands were. Things like that. Like he was really creepy. And
God.
Oh yeah, it was nuts. And then I also had a dance teacher. Her name was Mia Slavenska, because I was a professional dancer prior to becoming an actress. And she had been this huge prima ballerina with the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo. And she had been a great beauty, and she was pretty bitter that she wasn't dancing anymore because, it's a limited window. She was just such a character. And she would always, every class would start with her going, I don't feel so good today. And then she would, when people would go across the floor, she would go, no, no, no. No. And then I would demonstrate for her. So she'd go, Juliet, we'll do it. Show them how to do it. And I'd do it. And she'd go, oh, that reminds me of me when I was young. We'd be at the bar and we'd be sweating and working really hard. And she'd be looking in the mirror and pulling her face. And then she'd come up to us every single class and go, what do you think? Should I get a facelift? Should I? What do you think? Facelift or no? Facelift? Anyway, so there was Mia Slavenska. It was quite a character. As far as my best teachers, I would say I had a different dance teacher named Nanette Charisse, and she was part of the Charisse family, like Sid Charisse, like that whole.
Wow.
She was amazing. Mia was great technically, but it was kind of a crazy environment. But
tell me I'm beautiful. It's okay.
And then I had an acting teacher named Susan Peretz, who I'm a member of the Actors Studio, and she had been a member of the Actors Studio, and she was actually played Al Pacino's wife in Dog Day Afternoon.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she's an incredible actress, incredible human. Everything was about, there was no, competition. There was no anything other than really her wanting to impart knowledge to people, and she was really amazing. And then the last person I would say who was great was a therapist that has since passed away that both my husband Dev and I saw, and his name was Robert Lorenz. And he wasn't a literal teacher, but he taught me so much. And I feel like life lessons often can be taught from non-teachers. You can learn stuff where someone's not branded a teacher, but you can learn so much wisdom from them.
Now, you went to school in the UK for a little while, right?
I did.
Now, if British media is to be believed, that's not a great environment. One thing I got from watching a lot of British movies and TV, it's like their hospitals and schools are not very happy places.
If you don't teach me, you can't have any
My school, I actually went to the American school in London, and it was a progressive school. So there were a lot of students from, as I had mentioned before, from their families worked in the CIA, worked in the quote unquote embassy. And there were a lot of oil family, like all different kind of cross section of American kids. And the school itself, it didn't have classrooms. They were called pods. So there were no walls, and a lot of the projects were exceedingly creative. When I moved back to the States, I was actually 2.5 years ahead of, so the schooling was actually really good, but I didn't have the traditional, Dev definitely, he went to school with nuns and talk about yeah, they hit him on the hand, like they were.
Oh, yeah.
It was
it was closer to the wall then. Like that's my impression of British schooling system. It's just like, yeah, have you ever seen The Wall?
It was definitely a lot of these women also that had sort of been cast away and then went into the church, and then there was a lot of corporal punishment. It was just a pretty twisted environment that he experienced.
Yeah, if you ever watch The Singing Detective, they show what the school was like. Yeah, that's like the worst environment imaginable. I could have never imagined.
Well, also the private schools that rich kids are sent to too are sent away really young. I don't think that's the greatest thing either, and a lot of abuse and strange stuff in some of those establishments as well.
You know what's funny about school for me is like I wasn't a great student, but it's weird because I should have been. Because when I like fixate on something, I'll make it a point to learn every little element of it. Like once I'm really into something, I don't know. It's like, is it my fault for being a bad student, or is it? I definitely take a measure. I have to. I mean, that's foolish to say. No, it was their fault. It's like, no, I definitely take responsibility. But I don't know. I had very few instances where I felt I was engaged on the level which maybe is selfish, but it's like I wasn't engaged on the level I think I needed. Because like,
no, I think that's true. I do think a big component of good teachers is that they actually engage you. They get you inspired, interested. Learning is amazing.
Yeah, I love learning.
Yes, it's sort of codified in these strictures that don't engage you to want to learn. That's a problem. I think it is a big responsibility of the teachers and the schools.
Good. I'm going to let go of my self-loathing over that element there. That's enough. That's what I needed. I need to hear that.
As far as this relatable theme of the episode, North Carolina School of the Arts, did you have any issues there, Frank, in terms of there was a lot of abuse that went on there?
I went to a summer program there. So I was only there for like maybe 3 months, maybe 2-3 months. But yeah, you could see there was some weird elements there.
Now it's the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. It's called that. But the time I went there, it was a junior high, a high school, and college, and it was rife with sexual, physical, and psychological abuse. I went at 15 in high school, and as I mentioned before, I did double academics, double dance load. I was actually a ballet major and modern dance, so I had a crazy workload. But there were these two teachers, Mr. Kutch and Mr. Gain headed the modern department, and they had been with the Martha Graham Dance Company, and they would pressure proposition students openly. I mean, I saw a high school student my very first day get propositioned, and the thing is that we thought we were adults. The culture, the dance world, the amount of training that you're doing at a very young age, being away from home, dancing professionally as minors. So we didn't think it was abuse. And also, dance teachers often are excessively verbally cruel and abusive, and you're used to being put down, and you're also used to being manhandled in class. And so you're in a situation where you're trained to do exactly what the teachers say unequivocally.
Right.
But,
it must feel validating when they actually flip the switch. That's such psychological abuse. You know what I mean?
It's all crazy because really that's what all abusers do in all environments. They try to normalize the criminal. And thankfully, as you were saying, like there's more awareness now. But we called Mr. Kutch and Mr. Gain Mr. Crotch and Mr. Groin. That was the names we actually had for them. And there was a student, Christopher Sutherland, who was the first one to later file a lawsuit against them. But sadly, it was thrown out because it was past the statute of limitation. Then this Safe Child Act passed, which it's since expired again, which is a sorrowful thing, but it allowed a lawsuit. And I think it was 24 defendants from the school were named from the faculty, and 56 student alum were included. And I really wish.
Wow, I had no idea that was that's.
Oh my God. I wish they had contacted all of us, because when I was 15, I knew that Mr. Kutch slept with a college boy. His name was Chris, and he was really disgusting to him. What he would do is he would chase the boys, invite them to, it was the farm is where Mr. Kutch and Mr. Gain lived. Chris went there, and then he was really humiliating to him in class, like just saying things like, oh, your stomach's hanging out. It wasn't doing that at the farm last night. Like he'd say all this like stuff that was in front of everybody. And then they would proposition underage boys as if it was a joke. And we literally thought of ourselves as adults. So it was framed to us like this was normal also in the dance world. Kutch and Gain made it seem like, older men with younger men is common in the gay world, and as if that's okay to prey on underage boys. And there was another boy named Chris also, who was my age. I think he was 15, or he may have even been just under that. Mr. Kutch would proposition him so blatantly and in front of everybody. And it was so traumatizing. Now it's become clear that they were also sexually abusing them. The crazy thing is, I looked up a little bit of what happened with this case, and there was another in the ballet department. There was this teacher, Duncan Noble, and I only knew him as this drunkard. I mean, he was so drunk he could barely stand up in all of our classes, but apparently he also preyed on young boys. And in the press that I was reading, one of the boys went to Duncan for help and for safety and to talk about Kutch and Gain. And he said that he wished it had been him and that he wanted to have sex with him too. And, I don't even like calling
what?
Yeah.
It's just, I mean,
it keeps going. And I don't even like calling it sex, because I think coerced sex or adult child power dynamic, like that's rape.
That's SA, yeah.
And the dean that followed the dean that I had was charged with pedophilia, and he was the only one that was charged. Melissa Hayden from ABT was this renowned ballet dancer. She was after my part there, and she went there, her and her husband, and apparently would invite girls to their house and make them sleep to do things to each other and then with the husband. And so that stuff was just, and I was thinking, so years after I went there, was it just like, okay, if you're a sexual predator, this is where you go? I mean, it's kind of unbelievable that many people all went to that. It's like the Hellmouth, it's literally like they all gathered.
It's a concentrated evil place. Yeah.
The Hellmouth. Kutch and Gain was when I was there, and it's just, I wasn't sure if I should bring it up, but I thought about it. And I made a film about shining light on abuse, and
go ahead.
So, and many of us moved away from unhappy homes young to escape abuse and ended up in that environment. And
I mean, you're so vulnerable at that, especially when you're going to the performing arts and you just want any validation. Like, you know what I mean? You just want to be told that you're good at something. And it's just like to use that against you for your own gratification is just insane to me. That's just insane.
So ugly. And part of the statement I read from the school said this, which I found disturbing. In the decades following the time of this reported misconduct, society's understanding of child sexual abuse, the impact of power imbalances in the educational context, and the ways in which institutions can best protect minors and create a safe learning environment have evolved significantly. None of that excuses the type of conduct alleged. However, it may provide some contextual understanding around institutional responses at the time. I find that weird. It's sort of saying like, oh, well, people were okay to get away with it then.
Yeah.
You know.
Mea culpa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Today, that would be unimaginable. Like, and that was just open secrets. It's like,
Although
and that's
the episode made me think about also, especially in the ballet world, in gymnastics, and you're so young and you're kind of group groomed like a cult in a certain way. You know, the school completely normalized this. And we all thought seriously that it wasn't wrong for decades. But Chris, I think part of the reason he took so long is we thought this was okay. We were groomed and told this is normal and you guys are adults. This is kind of what it is. And it's
you don't have
so
context.
crazy.
You don't have, you're too young to have the context for that.
No. And I think people, normal, whatever word you want to say, but people are not wired to deal with evil. And children especially have no boundaries and no tools.
Yeah, you're just preying on the most vulnerable.
Yeah. This episode to me was powerful because I started thinking about all of that stuff and the experience of going somewhere to escape an unhappy place and arriving at a place that was very unhappy where the adults were criminals.
Well, you talk about gymnastics. Remember the Olympic doctor?
Yes.
That was insane. Like
Yeah,
it was, and these are people who have gold medals, like that you recognize. You realize how normal it's got to be for you that you don't think that you're going to get caught.
Well, so many of the girls that went to him, they didn't know. Again, like, oh, is this normal? He said it was normal. And those people also, it just seems like the numbers of people that part of the sickness is in spreading it as far and as wide, like Jeffrey Epstein, as many people as you can actually inflict damage on it. A guy that you're talking about, it was hundreds and hundreds.
He's going to be in jail till like long after we're all dead. I mean, he's going to be just a pile of ash. Good. Yeah, good.
Yeah. But that's the thing that is disturbing about the North Carolina School of the Arts case is that none other than that dean from after I was there, nobody served jail time. Mr. Kutch has passed away. He got away with it. And they did a settlement, some money, but the damage
is done. You ruined a generation, multiple generations. It's amazing how institutions
people
do
would be dealing with that
for the rest of their
families. Their families will be like that. The trickle down on that is infinite.
But they kept some of the faculty on for a number of years after the lawsuit was named, you know, and so they're saying, oh, well, these social mores are so different, but then why were they keeping people on that had alleged sexual abuse with minors? Like, you got to go while that's being looked into. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
Any children
like, okay, everybody's gone.
The thing about that, too, is it's not cancel culture. Anyone who was there that saw, I mean, I saw it. We were there. We saw it. We know it. Like, it's irrefutable.
It should be in a proper society, open and shut.
It should be just a volcano around that. It's just like, well, we got to take them to the volcano. Like, now I'm a dad.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't even literally, I'm nauseous putting that idea in my head.
Yeah, of course.
And if that, like, I sent my daughter to a school to follow a dream that she wanted, you know, something like that happened and that comes out and nothing's being done, I'm coming to the house with the hammers. Like, that's it. Like, I'm not, like, there's no, like, you have to, eventually you're going to have to leave and I'm going to be outside.
You're not going to be
coming
safe.
in. Like, you're not safe. Right. And I'll go to jail. I'll say my goodbyes. And that's fine. I can't even get the words out.
The episode really got me thinking about that. And one of the things that I think Buffy does so well is she's a praying mantis, and that diabolical.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's all you are. You're just there to like feed on somebody else to satisfy your own needs. That's it. Like, it's not even about anything else. It's a predator.
There is that thing also of Xander thinking, and I remember having this as a teenager, that you think that you can handle something that's really over your head, and you're kind of like, oh, I got this, and then you don't have it. I mean, that resonated with me as well.
Well, that's that validation when somebody older, like, and just forget about the sexual connotation. Just like when an older person at that age acknowledges you as a person, that's very validating. That makes you feel like, oh, I'm above people my age. I'm more mature than them. I could recognize that, like that, and that's where Xander's coming from. He's an insecure dude. Like, we know Xander, he's very insecure about himself, and like that's what she uses essentially. That's why she probably picked him. Because he's more susceptible to it because he's not very confident about it. That's how the episode opens. It's him having a dream that where he's the hero because he doesn't have that confidence about himself in real life. So as predators do, they go, that's my mark right there.
Yeah. It's funny when you're saying that. It makes me remember one of the things that
I'm sorry if I'm making you remember horrible things.
No, it's okay. It's actually, I read in the article somebody saying that Mr. Kutch, like they felt like they sort of at a certain point won him over. And I kind of remember that experience, even though obviously I wasn't his target because I was female. But he did do this thing with me as well, where he was very harsh to me in the beginning. And then I kind of won him over. And then I kind of thought he was a good guy. And then I read this person's statement. And it was like, I wanted to please him. I thought he was kind of a good guy. And I thought, whoa, he knew how to do that. He was not a good guy. That definition and him don't go together. But I thought that. And then reading this other student say those very words, I was like, oh, he obviously knew how to engender that feeling. That is grooming. That is the thing, like taking you down a road one way and then building you up another way. And so that you're kind of on his side while he's doing these things that are horrific.
Well, that's how cults operate. They break you down. So in any kind of like that kind of predatory relationship, the MO is break the person down. They strip you of dignity. So when they give you something back, you're more susceptible to like any kind of suggestion because you want that validation so bad because it's been denied you so long.
Yeah.
It's amazing how that mind works. Like like, could you ever think that way?
No.
Like, I couldn't imagine thinking that. That's why I find cults fascinating. It's like, it's amazing, like the methodology, like that's insane. I forget which one of your Q&As. It's just like, they're all the same. They really are. It's the same person with just millions of faces.
Yep.
There is only one thing on this earth more powerful than evil. And that's us.
Was there ever a project in high school that you undertook and then thought like, oh no, why did I do this? I was just thinking about Xander's character in some way, like he's upset about Buffy. And so he reactively jumps into going to the teacher and thinking this is so great. And like that idea of jumping into something and where you're kind of over your head, but you didn't.
I never approached girls. Like, here's the thing. I was a little bit delayed with my sexual development. I didn't date in high school. I was the
same. I was very late. Like same thing.
I did not date in high school. I was honestly, I can admit it now. I was honestly, because there were girls who were interested in me, apparently. I've heard over the years. I'm like, oh, really? I never would have guessed it.
You're like, why didn't you tell me at the time?
No, they probably did. You gotta understand, I'm very thick with that. Like, I don't recognize. Like, Deborah it's like she was flirting with you. Like, who? Like, she was? No, she wasn't. Like, she put her fingers in your mouth, Frank. Like, it's like, I thought she was just being friendly. Like, I do not.
I had something in my teeth.
I do not read signs like that. And honestly, if I did in high school, I'd be too afraid to because I was terrified. Honestly, I was terrified of the pressure of that. I was not ready in high school. The whole idea freaked me out. God, you mean touching another person? No.
Get out of here.
Get out of here. No, that's
not ready for that.
I really wasn't. I really was not.
I had to go back to get under the covers.
Yeah. I got to talk to somebody like a person.
Did you guys ever play like spin the bottle or those kind of games?
No,
I did.
I would. Did you?
Yeah.
You little
I did in high school. Well,
I did in grade school too.
The first time I played it, I chickened out when the bottle landed on me.
Me too.
I said, no. I'm just kidding.
I was like, truth instead of dare. I'll say truth. Yeah. Give me whatever you. So as far as the episode, we then see Angel coming at the bronze again, and he kind of has that "I'll be around" tease for that he's going to be in future episodes. And Buffy obviously has that moment where she's, oh boy, right? Because there's the attraction. But that's some premier handsome lurking there.
It's enraging.
It's really, if you like a girl and there's a guy who's that good at that, you've got no shot. Just quit. Just like, all right, look at that. You see his hair? No. I got no shot here.
You just turn. You don't even fully commit to walking into the building.
Yeah, I see him come out of a dark corner. It's like, I'm
just
out.
Turn immediately about face.
Yeah,
just leave.
right. Well,
no point in me being here.
And he's already taken off his jacket.
Yeah, none of this is going to be. The rest of this night's not going to be fun.
It's also the end when it's a shame because the new teacher seems really bureaucratic. That replaces the cool teacher.
All midterm papers will be exactly 6 pages long. No more, no less.
And
just another one of those teachers, yeah.
Yeah, and very rule oriented and very, by the book, like it's not going to be fun. And then there's the eggs at the end, which is a sort of quintessential horror tag because the characters think that it's safe, but the audience sees that, this may rear its head again, which it doesn't, but there's that tag.
There's always going to be one of those in a school. I think that's the point, really, when you look at it. It's like, you got rid of this one, but there are lots more of them.
Yep, I think so too. What dialogue would you have from this episode would you get as a tattoo?
I'm going to have to go with Flutie's line when he says,
I'm always here if you need a hug, but not a real hug.
That's a great one.
Yeah. My line would be Xander when he says,
It's funny how the earth never opens up and swallows you when you want it to.
That's a great line.
I love that.
I've been there.
I had a couple runners up, but I think
Destructo Girl. That's me.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I like that one from Buffy. I also think it's funny when Charisma says, "Excuse you." And then I also think this one's funny when Buffy says to Giles in the library, "Well, I'm chasing Claw Guy last night, and Miss Well Proportioned is heading home." Claw Guy takes one look at her and runs screaming for cover. I just thought that was fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this bash of the brains, this mangling of the minds, as we try to find the Uber Buffy fan among you. The battle of the Uber Buffy fans, the trivia contest of champions. Where Uber Buffy fans step into the ring, a metaphorical one, of course. The ring being appearing on the Slaying It podcast and see who can answer more questions that are so devious that you think they were written by the first. Or Drusilla. I'm joined as always by Chris Feinstein.
Right you are, Frank, and I'm just excited to be here. Today, we are going to introduce you to 2 of the competitors in this contest of champions.
In this corner, out of Southern California, weighing in at over 12 rewatches of Buffy, Annalise, the Annihilator.
Hey there, Buffy nerds. My name's Annalise. I originally am from Santa Barbara, aka Sunnydale, aka the Hellmouth. I lost count somewhere in the early 2000s of rewatches at about 12. If I chose a tattoo off of a line from Teacher's Pet, it would be the great Cordelia in her Mean Girls phase saying, "Even used Mercedes have leather seats."
And in this corner, out of Alberta, Canada, weighing in at approximately 21 rewatches of Buffy, Deadly Dion Dolce.
Hey guys, I'm Dion Dolce, Sheldon Coakley, in Grand Prairie, Canada, Alberta. My tattoo, I think, would have to be, "No dear, I'm right here."
If you want to be considered as a contender, write us at slayingitpodcast@gmail.com for your chance to be the Slayaway champion of the Hellmouth.
Please include your name, where you're based out of, and what you weigh in with number of Buffy watch-throughs. And everybody, let's get ready to Buffy!
And now for something completely different.
So I worked for a utility company in New York for 15 years. One of my partners, he was an older guy who retired and came back to work because after he retired, his wife filed for divorce and he would have to give her half his pension. So he came back to work to avoid that.
Oh my God.
And he was a Vietnam veteran. his hands were frozen, so he couldn't really function with his hands. And he used to just sit in the truck next to me playing air guitar and singing about a black cat that he said he had. But I don't think he really ever owned any cats.
Oh my God.
He would just say, "Whoa, black cat." And then he'd be like, the black cat would come here and he would claw his eye. I don't know what he was.
You're watching somebody having a breakdown.
Yeah. And he would have flashbacks from Vietnam randomly. Wow. He would tell me how sometimes, like, he would just be in the middle of a conversation and then just say how he drove past his ex-wife's house and shot at the house. Which I don't know if it was true or not.
My gosh.
Oh yeah. Yeah. This was all day is what and he would
ex-wife took my black cat.
Yeah, he would just say, and he would play air guitar with his two hands that were locked. Like literally only like two fingers on each hand worked.
Oh, he's all straightest up.
I don't know what was happening, but he would just sit and play the air guitar next to me all day. Sometimes he would just fall asleep. But those were the good days. Like if he fell asleep and he just slept for a majority of the day, that was a good day. He would never, we're working in the street, so it's like you have to use, public facilities, but not him. He used to just go in bags in the back seat. And it was just urine everywhere. And I didn't know this at first. He would just get out of the car and we would be parked and like I'd be like eating lunch and then the door would slide open and I would just be like, what are you doing? And that would be like his answer.
Well, I haven't thought of it that way.
Oh, all right. Now that you put it that way, you're right. But it's just like I was really the only person who would work with him because everyone else would fight with him, but I was sort of entertained.
How long did you have to work with him?
I worked with him for about 2 years straight. Every day.
Every day?
Yeah, George. He was a wild guy.
And every day he sang air guitar?
Every day he played air guitar and sang about the black cat. He would tell me stories about the black cat definitely didn't exist.
It was an imaginary friend.
Without a shadow of a doubt, the black cat wasn't real.
Maybe it's a metaphor.
Yeah, what was it?
I don't know. Like he would go get lunch and he'd come back with like a tuna fish sandwich and he'd be like, the black cat would love this. Don't put that down. The black cat will get it.
No, he didn't.
I swear to God. I swear to God. The air guitar was really great.
Yeah, I think I would enjoy that until I really did.
It was not until you really couldn't anymore. Yeah, until you really couldn't anymore. I mean, you ever go through like your Facebook memories?
Yes.
And like every day it comes up. I saw one like recently. It was like in the summer, 15 years ago. And I saw my status was, I want to beat my partner to death. And I just said, George.
Wow. That is nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a wild, wild guy.
But what was the work that you guys actually did? He didn't have to use his hands to do it?
Apparently not. Well, he did probably at one point, but I was I just did everything.
He was senior.
He was senior to me.
Right.
Yeah. So I worked for the electric company. So like we did a lot of like the metering and stuff like that and changing out electric meters and running service lines.
What did he do?
He just kind of stood there and just like paced. Usually he looked for things in the basement. He would find like weird things and pick them up and be like, hey, you ever see something like this? It's like, no, what is that? It looks like garbage. Like he would like take things, like nothing important, but it just looked like garbage. Like he would just find like things like, the black cat would like to play with. Bring it, like, what are you doing? He was probably a very lonely guy.
Sounds very lonely.
Aww.
I don't know. He passed away, so he's not with us anymore. I know that.
Joining that black cat in the sky.
But what about the black cat? That's what I was
I said the black cat probably ate him. He died in the apartment.
I did a play at the Pittsburgh Public Theater. It's this beautiful theater. It's 950 seats. It was built by the architect Michael Graves. It has incredible acoustics, so you don't need microphone when you're on stage. The way that the theater is constructed is some of the seats are really close. It's sort of in a C shape. And so the very front rows on the sides and the front are very, very close. And then the seats go all the way back to this big, theater auditorium. So I was doing Clifford Odets Awake and Sing. And I was playing the role of Henny, and I was doing a scene. So we had staged it where my mother finds out that I'm pregnant. It's a Depression era drama. I think it's set in 1930.
Clifford Odets play?
Yeah, and it was, well, exactly, and it was set in Brooklyn in I think 1931, and so my character finds out that she's pregnant, tells the family. I don't know where the father is, and I'm having this major row with my mom in the play, and so it was staged where we were in the living room, and then we went over to the side, the C, like more like a U, I guess. And the side where we had kind of what was supposedly the kitchen window, and I'm looking out it, and we're having this major argument, disagreement. And the seats right there are about 2 feet away, the closest seats. So I'm looking out the window and you're seeing the audience, but you're creating whatever you're creating. We're in the middle of our fight, and this woman at the top of her lungs is looking at me and screams, "Oh, will you just stop that?" And you could hear a pin drop. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm on stage. I'm supposed to be having this argument, but this woman is yelling at me. Like, this is so surreal. And so time sort of suspended. And I think it was the woman who played my mom said it was only a few seconds, but I felt like I was standing there not knowing what to do in that suspended moment. And then I kept thinking, oh my God, she's yelling at me. She's yelling at me. What do I do? And then we just resumed the scene and we went off stage. And the other actress was like, "Oh, that was amazing. She was so into it." And I said, but she was yelling at me. Like she was, and she said, "Yeah, you must have reminded her of someone or something because she got so vocal in the play." And I loved it. I was like, "Of course you loved it. She wasn't yelling at you."
Yeah, that would
right? She was yelling at me and so guttural, like, "Will you just stop that?" And I was like, I can't really stop it. There's more dialogue in this scene. Like, I can't just stop it. And so
this is not real, right? Like
right. And it was so, and I was kind of like felt, oh my God, this is so trippy and strange. The other actress was like, no, this is great. It's really, her name was Marilyn. Marilyn's like, "It's wonderful. I love that that happened." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." And I'd never had anyone yell that loud in a theater before, but it actually reminded me of a Peter O'Toole story that he said he was playing Hamlet once, and he had tights on, and he had bleached hair, and he had the sword, and he ran down the tower, and this woman that was in the front row laughed, and he basically just goes, he broke character, and he looks at her and he goes, "Oh, piss off." And then he went right back into
That's
character.
great.
So
Oh, that's wonderful.
I was thinking of Peter O'Toole when that happened. I was like, oh, what would he have done?
You're always like afraid of like losing the audience. I never thought of the inverse of that when you got them too good.
I've been on stage where someone's like, "What did she say?" That kind of thing. like she said,
like in
whatever.
Soap Dish.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
I've had that happen. I've had, all kinds of things happen. It was wild to get just completely yelled at by someone.
I had a weird outburst like that in a movie theater once. Movie I really was not enjoying. And it was like late into the film. This movie was pushing buttons in a way that it almost seemed like the filmmaker went out of their way to like do things that were annoying me. So at one point I was with a friend of mine, and it was like late into the film, and I just screamed,
"Oh my God.
Move!" And I don't know what I meant by that. Because it wasn't about that wasn't the issue. It was just a sound that came out of me. Because I was just
maybe you wanted to move.
Something. Maybe. I don't know. And I just yelled that, and it's just the first word. It didn't make sense to context what was happening in the scene. It was just, I just needed to yell, and I just went, "Move!" I was just that enraged.
What did the people around you do?
Yeah, no, everybody jumped. I was just, because I reached my breaking point, which is probably the only time that's ever happened, like where I've ever been that annoyed watching something. Because even if it's bad, you've not talked to me enough that you see my threshold's a lot higher than most. This is beyond the pale. Like, I can't take it anymore. And I just yelled, and it's completely made no sense. And it's like, what did you mean by that? I don't know.
That was your Ice Capades existential crisis moment.
Move! And it's just like, it was just a sound. It could have been anything. It could have been jump. It could have been any word. But it was the first word my mind grabs. I just yelled it.
Oh, that is so funny.
I once in a movie theater when I went to see State of Grace in a movie theater. And
With your
about
buddy, Gary Oldman.
exactly. And it was before I had worked with Gary, and I was watching the movie, and about 45 minutes into the film, I realized that it was the same actor from Sid and Nancy.
Oh,
And
wow.
I couldn't believe it because he was such a chameleon. It was so different that I, at the top of my lungs, went, "Oh my God. Oh my God." And people around me went, "Shh, shh, shh." And I went, "Oh my God. That is the same actor as Sid and Nancy." And people are like, "Shh." I'm like, "Oh my God, he's like the new fucking Brando." Like I went on this monologue that was, I could not stop. And everybody was shushing me and like, "We want to see the movie. Can you cut it out?" And I was like, "But do you realize this guy is incredible?" And then finally I was like, "Oh my God, I'm doing this in public. Like this is not, this is not okay. I need to be quiet." And I got a hold of myself, but I had a Gary Oldman moment where it just burst out of me. And literally the whole audience was going, "Shh, shh, can you be quiet? Yes, he's great. Shh."
Did you ever tell him that story?
I told him it recently.
That's funny. So if you take anything away from this episode, don't go to NCSA, but definitely take out State of Grace.
You take anything out of this
We now welcome our audience to enjoy this recently unearthed missing scene from the episode.
And that's why I'm still single. All right, let's keep this show moving. One hand hitting the other makes a really nice sound. Let's give a hand to our next comedian, Claw Vampire.
Thank you. So really, give me a hand. I need it.
Huh.
It's come in handy for downsizing my home. Out with the hammer, the forks, spoons, spatulas, hell, all the utensils. Not that I've needed those things for a while on my diet. Even the back scratcher. Redundant. I've also saved on gloves. This guy knows what I'm talking about. Maybe I should pivot. My boss said I'd be a perfect Santa. Get it? Santa Claus. Where did I get my claw? The second-hand shop. I'm thinking of changing my name to Captain Claw, in homage to Captain Hook. What do you think?
You suck.
Too bad it's my left hand. Otherwise, I'd be all right. All right. Nothing. Well, I'm trying out new material here, and I'd say I died on stage, but luckily I'm already dead. I guess I'll just do a jazz claw. And, yeah, it's crazy. And, say goodbye.
Thank you, Captain Claw. Maybe you should consider another line of work. All right. Let's try that again, okay? You're gonna love our next guy.
If you're enjoying Slaying It, leave us a review on Apple, Spotify, your podcast medium of choice, especially on Spotify. On Spotify, you can leave comments on episodes particular. So
which I
let
love.
us know, which is fantastic. And it's the easiest way for you guys to communicate with us.
Oh, hit us up also on our Twitter. Do we have that yet?
We don't have that yet, but we're going to have that by the time this airs.
Yeah.
So Slaying It Podcast on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and
YouTube.
YouTube. Oh, yes, YouTube.
Sorry for yelling. YouTube.
No, that's your. Thank you.
See you next week when we'll do it again. Do it again. And most importantly, until next time, go out and slay it.